What's up, guys? This is the Profit Playbook DFS, and I'm Jaime Hernandez. Before we dive in, please hit that like button, subscribe, and let's cash this slate together. Go ahead and share this video as well with your friends. Before we dive into Week 7, which is going to be loaded, let's do a quick review of Week 6, right? My top plays that I gave out with Robertson at quarterback, Baylor. That game was a shootout. He did give us 26 fantasy points, which is not bad, right? But we were expecting 30 plus there. But you know who did give us 30 plus? That was opposite. The opposite team there, Kansas State, Avery Johnson. I called it. He's going off. He got us 36.76 fantasy points with that fire sign there, right? And his receiver, Jace Brown, as well, at 7,600, 23.6 fantasy points. Did pretty good for us. And then value, we gave out Price, Notre Dame. He's a backup running back. 14.30 for his price, 5,800, not bad. And then we had Prentice at Baylor. He only had one reception, but that reception was for 30 yards, right? And a touchdown. So it wasn't bad. Another running back that I gave out as value, he let us down big time. That was Mahdi, Arizona, right? Arizona went on to score 41 points, but he only had 34 yards rushing. He was ice cold at 3.40. That's it. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Week 7, it is a loaded slate. Let's go ahead and start off at quarterback here. We're normally going all the way to the top. This time, it's a little bit below that, right? 2 spots below that. We're gonna start off with Haynes King, quarterback, Georgia Tech, right? He's at 9,400, still expensive, almost like the top dog there, but he's ranked 3rd on that list. When it comes to King, of course, he's a dual threat monster, right? 7 touchdowns on the ground already this year, as you can see right there. And 3 separate 100 yards rushing games, 156, 103, and 106. Georgia Tech in this game is favored by 15.5 points versus Virginia Tech with a slate high 35.5 implied team total. And of course, King is the clear engine of this offense, right? Everything goes through him. Yes, they have Haynes, but King is that motor, right? He drives everything in that offense. He's shown he can carry the offense both on the ground and through the air, and he's locked into hero mode when needed, right? So if for any reason Virginia Tech, they scored 30 plus points here, damn well Haynes King will play hero ball, and that is, a ceiling game for him, right? He'll go nuke, just like he did in Week 1 versus Colorado. King is my favorite play there. His floor is elite. He's definitely got GPP winning upside there. Definitely one of the top plays on the slate. That's why we love Haynes King here as my favorite quarterback, right? Favorite spend-up stud there. And then here, for the 2nd week in a row, let's go back to him. Avery Johnson, quarterback, Kansas State, 9,200. Both of these quarterbacks are 9,000 plus, right? But for good reason. Avery Johnson has officially broken out. Called that play last week, right? Versus Baylor. I love this game. And it paid dividends on there, of course. He dropped 339 yards, 2 touchdowns to 1 interception, but he also ran for 72 yards and 1 touchdown. Of course, giving us 5 points for that 300-plus yard game bonus there on DraftKings, right? Kansas State, they're just a slight 1.5-point underdog in a projected 55-point shootout against TCU. I truly feel that total is on the lower end, but I'm not looking at totals here. I'm looking at potential, right, when it comes to fantasy points here for DraftKings. He's averaging over 226 passing yards per game. He has 10 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and of course his mobility adds rushing floor and ceiling. He's definitely perfect for a game stack, right? Kind of like we did last week with his wide receiver. He's got sneaky ceiling. As you can tell there, 36 fantasy points, 22. I mean, I truly feel that's the floor this week. 27 would be mid for his price tag there. But I love Avery Johnson this week for sure. Let's see here. We can go to Let's see here. And we can also go opposite of him in Josh Hoover, right? Same thing, elite matchup. He's got tons of ceiling there. In a way, you might say Josh Hoover might be a better play than Avery Johnson, right? And I wouldn't argue with you on that. Regardless, I love both of these guys. I love this game. Once again, I am targeting that Kansas State game. Last week versus Baylor, this week versus TCU. And on both sides, there's just value and upside, both wide receiver, running back, and quarterback here. But I love Josh Hoover here, especially stacking him up with his number one wide receiver. He already has 15 touchdown passes on the year, just 4 interceptions. Rushing yards, he's not going to give you a ton there, right? But he does have ceiling for a rushing score. He already has 2 on back-to-back games. It was a horrible game, right? On the 26th of September, 8.9 fantasy points. But look at this, 32.5, 39.9, 35 there. Most likely, if he would have had at least 20 fantasy points here, I'm sure Hoover would be priced higher than Avery Johnson. So you're getting value there with Hoover at quarterback for that price tag there. Next up, let's go to back-to-back weeks with Brandon Sorsby there, and back-to-back weeks. And all 3 weeks, he's gone off, right? 40 fantasy points, 31.7, and 29 fantasy points that I recommended him. Of course, the other 2 weeks, he went off. And I don't think he was on the slate. If he was, then I completely missed him the first 2 weeks. 1, 2, 3, my bad, that I recommended him. Regardless, he's been going off at his price tag at $7,700. I was saying he was way too cheap at $6,400, and at $7,700. I still think he's a little bit underpriced there, especially for his ceiling and for his floor. Right, Brendan Sorsby, we're going back to back with you there. At quarterback, Cincinnati there. And last but not least, at quarterback, we're going to go to UCLA with Nico Iamaleava. Where are you, buddy? It was a huge upset last week, right? Penn State, they were pretty big favorites versus UCLA. They were huge favorites, actually. Yet UCLA didn't just cover the spread, the 20-plus, whatever spread it was. They won outright there at the Rose Bowl, and it was pretty good. Are we seeing a breakout, from Nico? Maybe, maybe not. Clearly, we're not expecting 50 fantasy points like he did last week. But of course, we know he's got the potential there. And squarely at $6.2K and his salary, he's in play, right? We already saw what he did versus Penn State. And Michigan State defense, they ranked 99th versus the pass, allowing 251.5 yards per game. UCLA is an 8.5 underdog. But of course, it can definitely turn out to be a competitive shootout. And if it does, Nico's usage and rushing upside are real, right? He's definitely a GPP flyer for this price tag of $6,200 to get you 30-plus point upside there. At that price tag, why not? I love him with that price tag. Once again, we're not expecting him at 50 fantasy points. But if he can get me at least, like right here on the 6, 24.1, I'll be happy, right? We'll be happy with that price tag there. We love Nico at that price tag. But that's it. It's a short one. Those are the quarterbacks that I really like. Haynes King, Georgia Tech, 9,400. Avery Johnson, Kansas State at 9,200. And then we also love Josh Hoover, TCU, and Brendan Sorsby, Cincy, 7,700, and Nico, UCLA at 6,200 there, right? So, there's a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of starting quarterbacks there. There are 24 starting quarterbacks this slate, so you can pick as you wish, but those are my core plays for this week. And now we'll go to our running backs. And I sound like a broken record here, but since week 2, we're going back to Jeremiah Love, and why not? He hasn't really disappointed us here. When it came to last week, 21.4 fantasy points versus Boise State, right? It was a pretty. It wasn't as a close game that like we expected. Well, we didn't expect it. It wasn't as much of a blowout like we expected, but it was a low-scoring game in Notre Dame standard, right? Coming what we expect from them, but I truly feel like Notre Dame gets back on track here versus NC State. It should be a shootout, I feel like Notre Dame, they'll pull out late, and Jeremiah Love is going to be a huge reason why. I'm expecting Jeremiah Love to get back to those 30-point fantasy games here with NC State. And second, I'm staying with that Notre Dame team in Price, right? He's RB2 for them. But if Notre Dame, if they pull out early, I'm expecting them to pull out late, but if they pull out early, he can be a great GPP weapon there. As we see, he's getting some run when it comes to Price. Once Notre Dame turns on those jets, and of course this is not working. Oh my goodness. Of course it's not working when I need it to. But here we have Price. Like I said, when Notre Dame is blowing teams out early, he's getting his fair share off the rock right there. 18.8 fantasy points, 31.4, 25.1, and even last week, 14.3, right? But his price tag, it kind of climbed up a bit to 6,600 from last week. He was at 5,800, but Price, he's in play for GPP, I would say. And anyways, that's as much as we got for Notre Dame. Now we can go to Iowa State. Let me just click it here. So with Iowa State here, with Hansen, right? He's in a concussion protocol, and they've been taking these concussions pretty serious these past couple of years. He got injured last week, but most of the time when it comes to concussion, they normally miss a week. And if that's the case with Hansen, if he were to miss this week, I love Abu Sama. He's at 4,300. So once again, that's if Hansen is out. Abu Sama, I love here. He had 21, it looks like 21 touches, 20 touches last week. He had 18 attempts for 96 yards and 2 receptions for 8 yards, right? The only thing is he did not score a touchdown. But you see the volume is there if Hansen is out. So at 4,300, he is definitely going to be the play at running back when it comes to value if Hansen is out this week, right? So Abu Sama, loving him this week as long as Hansen is out. If he's out, lock in Sama, in your roster. Just lock him in. And then we can go to Mekhi Frazier. Michigan State going up versus UCLA. I love him here, right? His production there, it hasn't been the greatest, as you can tell by the price tag. But versus UCLA, if this turns into a shootout, Mekhi Frazier should have a lot of opportunities to score here, right? And that's what we're going with this week. Paying up for Jeremiah Love and then finding value and spending up at quarterback and wide receiver, right? Mekhi Frazier, with those opportunities, his price tag is just elite. Is elite at 4,800 there. I love Mekhi Frazier this week with those opportunities there, right? And then UCLA, that run defense allowing over 217 rushing yards per game, ranking 123rd in the country, right? Everything that I'm seeing here is a recipe for success. and I'm willing to take the gamble this week when it comes to Frazier. And then we can go ahead and go to the other side of things in UCLA, and that is with Anthony Woods. Looks like he's the locked-in running back there. Same thing, opportunity there, 14 attempts, right? 63 yards rushing, 1 reception, which I feel like was an anomaly there. He's been getting 3 receptions there. He's getting opportunity, just like Frazier, right? And like I said, they're only an 8.5-point underdog. I mean, depending on what site you're looking at. But there's potential for a shootout there. And Anthony Woods, even though last week was a complete shootout where they shocked the world and beat Penn State outright, he didn't get into the end zone. But for that price tag, if he gets into that end zone, then you're golden, right? You're golden. At that price tag, I love Anthony Woods. Once again, spend up for Jeremiah Love and, fell out the other running back spot with value and then spend up at wide receiver and quarterback this week. That's what I'm doing, right? That's what I'm shooting for. Unless you want to go for Smothers, he's another guy that we've been high on this season so far. I don't think he was on the slate versus Virginia Tech last week or the week before. I don't know, but Smothers is some guy, not some guy. He's the guy that I've seen a couple of times here at the Profit Playbook. And this week, I feel like his price tag at $8,400 is a little bit steep going up versus Notre Dame. But I mean, if they can keep it close, if they can do what UCLA did, then Hollywood Smothers will be another spend-up stud there. But I'm rolling the dice with Love when it comes to studs this week. And let's go to wide receivers here. All right, let's go to the receivers. And all the way at the top, you have Jeremiah Smith, right? And he's the top dog. He's coming in at 9,000. Pretty expensive, right? But he's worth it. Illinois. They just beat. Who the hell did Illinois play? Well, anyways, but they already played versus USC, and all the games have been high scoring, right? Even when they got blown out versus Indiana put 60 plus, I believe, or 50 plus on them. So, the potential is there versus Illinois. It's not a game that should be out of hand early. It should be a high scoring game. I see Ohio State putting up 40 plus and Illinois putting up at least 25 points, at least putting up a fight. For that reason, Jeremiah Smith, I love this week. And then when it comes to Jace Brown, right, he wasn't the healthiest last week. He was dealing with an injury, right? As you can see there, he missed some games from September 12th and on. Finally played last week, and he was used sparingly. He wasn't there every single snap. And truly here versus TCU, I expect him to be there most of the time, right? And these numbers, I truly believe he can surpass these numbers and go 30-plus DraftKings points this week. I love Jace Brown this week versus TCU. It should be a great game, especially if you're going with Avery Johnson at quarterback, right? You can go ahead and put Jace Brown at wide receiver there. And then on the other side of things, right, you can go with McAllister. I recommended McAllister, a couple of games ago. He went off versus SMU, 54.4 fantasy points, right? And then versus Colorado, he had 22.5 fantasy points, which is okay for his price tag. 22.5, we'll take it, right? But if he can produce the way that he did versus SMU, we'll take that 100%, right? Eric McAllister or any receiver for TCU doesn't play this week. That's what I think. And based off the quarterbacks I recommended, why not? I know I recommended Dwyer as well in that game versus SMU that McAllister went off, and he didn't do so great, right? Only 6.2 fantasy points, but McAllister did the heavy lifting for both of them, so it is what it is. But I truly believe anyone from TCU has a chance to go off. And what's the other guy? Manjack. You can go with Manjack too, right? From TCU, you can definitely do a pretty good stack with also Manjack if you want to go value, and then McAllister, right? You can run it back with Jace Brown. You can literally just play that game, players from that game, and I feel like you should cash in double ups, 50-50s, or head to head. I truly feel that about this week and that game there. Let's see here. What else do we have this week? Let's see. But yeah, it's I truly feel like it's a great slate to target. Oh, and then of course you also have Ryan Williams, right? The only thing when it comes to Ryan Williams there is he's sharing the targets with what's the guy's name? Bernard, and every single week, like when I have Ryan Williams on my team, he does okay, right? And I'm like, man, like it's potential to give me 40 plus fantasy points, and I'll go ahead and check the score, and I'm like, who scored? Boom, Bernard, right? And as you can see there, 2-1-1-1. He's basically scored in every game following that FSU loss, right? But yeah, he holds the ceiling for Ryan Williams. He holds it back a little bit. But it is what it is. Ryan Williams this week, I truly feel like this might be a shootout as well. And if it is, Ryan Williams should do a lot of the heavy lifting for that Bama team there, right? And let's see here. Another guy that has been pretty good to us this year, when I recommended him, has been Elijah Surratt, right? So even versus tough teams, he goes off. It seems like there's no matchup that you should be avoiding him in, and especially here versus Oregon. If this turns into a shootout, Surratt's gonna be one of those guys that's gonna be going off, right? And then let's see here. And then Hank Beatty last week. There was one tournament that I entered, and the guy that took down Beatty, however you pronounce the name, I'm sorry, right? He had, I think, like 20 lineups, and he had him in all of his lineup. Was one of the reasons why he won. He wasn't really owned as much, but he won. I faded him, and he went off, right? So you have those games. So he's a guy that you can use versus Ohio State. It's just that matchup is pretty tough, right? Let's see. Yeah, you can do it. You can go with Bernard as well, like I just mentioned. But the thing with Bernard and Williams, they basically, they limit each other's ceiling when it comes to that. But whatever, Let's see. And I'm not gonna recommend Jolly there. I've been on that high train for about 3 weeks, and it hasn't equated to anything, right? So I'm fading Jolie there. And let's see here. If you're going with Gilmer, if you're going with Nico, you can go ahead and go with Gilmer here. If you're doing a stack there, right? And let's see. With Haynes King, you don't have to stack him up with anyone. But yeah, there's not much when it comes to receiver. I'll definitely be paying up for Jeremiah Smith, for Jace Brown there, and for McAllister. I'll be going there, and then of course paying up for the quarterbacks. That's really it. There wasn't much for the wide receivers this week. The last time that happened, that I wasn't sold on a lot of wide receivers, of course, that's when McAllister had that crazy game, and we're hoping it's the same. We're hoping it's the same this week. But that's all I have for you there, right? When it comes to the quarterbacks I recommended, you don't really have to. Stack Sorsby or Haynes King in my book. With Nico, I mean, like I said, you can go with Gilmore there, but when it comes to Sorsby or King, you could run them naked, and you should be okay there. But of course, those are my core plays that I'm rolling with this week. You have yours, so I hope this video was you found something valuable in this video that you were not really looking at for this upcoming week. And if you did, please hit like, share, and subscribe. Give me a comment there whether you like my lineups, whether you think it's trash or my picks are trash, whatever you feel like commenting. It helps me out regardless, even if you think it's trash, right? And please share it. It'll help us grow. And thank you so much, right, to my 40+ subscribers. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your watch time, and I appreciate your likes. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and get profitable. See you.